Hello and welcome to Maths with Jacob. This lesson will focus on different angles. The following is a brief summary showing the different types of angles we will encounter when studying the topic of geometry. The first angle is an acute angle, and it basically looks like this. And what would the size of this angle be? Well, it's greater than 0 degrees and less than 90 degrees. So any angle within that range is called an acute angle. The right angle, it's a very straightforward one, this one, because this line is horizontal and that line is vertical, which makes this angle 90 degrees. So it's exactly 90 degrees, and we call that a right angle. The obtuse angle, it looks something like this. And what type of angles can we expect here? Well, these angles are greater than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees. So anywhere within that range will give us an obtuse angle. The straight angle is very straightforward, pardon the pun. It's just a straight line, so it's exactly 180 degrees. So from there around to there is 180 degrees. The reflex angle is an interesting one. Basically, any angle which is a reflex angle has to be greater than 180 degrees and less than 360. So that's just one example there of a reflex angle. But this here is the range that we're looking at. Anywhere between those two numbers gives us a reflex angle. A revolution is exactly 360 degrees. So we're talking about one revolution, and we saw that in a previous video, where if you have one full revolution, you actually have a circle. Now here we have an interesting description, and you may not have seen this before. Complementary angles. The important thing here is that we have a ray here and a ray there, and then we have another one there, which splits this right angle, because that's a right angle there, into two parts, A degrees and B degrees. So the size of that angle is A and the size of that angle is B. Two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So basically, if you have two angles, when you add them up, if they add to 90 degrees, then they are called complementary angles. Down here we have the description supplementary angles. So we have a straight line and then a line here, which divides that straight line into two separate angles. So supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So the addition of m plus n gives us 180 degrees. Adjacent angles. The word adjacent means next to or near. So angle ADB, which is ADB, that is this one here, and angle BDC, BDC, so this angle and this angle are next to each other, and they have DB as a common arm. So DB, that line, forms each of those angles. So that angle and that angle are called adjacent angles. In other words, they're two angles that are next to each other. Let's look at some quick examples. If we're asked to name each of the following angles, for example 50 degrees, we know that that's between 0 and 90, that's called an acute angle. 90 degrees, where that line is horizontal and that line's vertical, but they don't have to be. As long as this angle here is 90 degrees, that's called a right angle. 120 degrees, you can see that this angle here is between 90 and 180. That's called an obtuse angle. The straight angle is exactly 180 degrees. So that's what that is, and it's called a straight angle. If you were given this diagram here with 230 degrees as an example, you would call that a reflex angle because it's between 180 and 360. So it's called a reflex angle. This is our famous full revolution. So whenever you see these diagrams, if they give you specific examples or not, you should be able to name these diagrams. Full revolution, same as a circle. Here are two specific examples. Now when we add those two together, we get 90 degrees, so they have to be complementary angles. Over here we have 118 degrees and 62 degrees, and here we have a straight line. When you add those two together, that gives us 180 degrees. Okay, so they are supplementary angles. Okay, SUPP, I'll leave you to finish that. They are called supplementary angles. These two angles here are close to each other. There's the common arm. They're called adjacent angles. And finally, what is the supplement of 124 degrees? That is, what angle do you have to add to 124 degrees to get 180? Well, you have to add 56 degrees, because if you add those two together, that gives you 180. What is the complement of 67, which is asking you, what do you have to add to 67 to give you 90 degrees? And the answer is 23 degrees. So 67 degrees and 23 degrees are complementary angles. So this video has introduced us to different types of angles, and we've seen how to name these angles, and we've also seen some specific examples of the angles.